Hi everyone in English 1301, it's Dr. E, and here is the supplemental video for this week. I believe it's week 11. Hey everyone in English 1301, it's Dr. E, and this is the supplemental video for week 11. I did want to touch a little bit on those things that you thought and wrote about last week and make sure that we're kind of all on the same page and see if you have any questions or concerns about that information. So what I'm going to do first is walk through chapter 23 in our course text, which is all about evaluating sources. And I just want to note that this is a pretty important chapter, just considering how difficult it can be nowadays with so much information coming at us, especially digitally. It can be kind of hard to identify, well, what's a reliable source and what's not a reliable source. So this chapter kind of gives us a little bit of insight and direction on how we can work to identify what is considered, quote, fake news, or what's reliable, information that's coming at us. So one thing that's important is that, especially as it relates to academic writing, your integrity as an author, is kind of dependent upon the sources you cite, right? So your sources need to be appropriate and, of course, reliable. So in academia, we don't want you to rely on just a quick Google search, right? Wikipedia is not good for academic papers. It's a good place to start because it can steer you in the right direction, but we don't want to be using Wikipedia pages in our works cited or bibliographies or anything like that. So you want to be an ethical researcher in terms of writing academically for sure. Okay, so I want you to think about the fact that most reliable news organizations, they have professional fact checkers. These are people who are actually employed by this organization to check all the facts in a particular article. So they don't start to read a news source and judge its relevance until they've determined whether it's trustworthy or not, right? So it takes this kind of investigative process. And it's terrible that we have to go through all of these steps to determine what's reliable and not nowadays. But it just has become some of the necessary work to do. We can't trust everything we see initially on Facebook. We have to figure out, well, who posted this? What is their motivation? Do they have any biases? That kind of thing. So these were the questions you needed to ask for Jennifer Aitley's work this week. So what's the title? We don't necessarily want to base all our judgment on a title because sometimes titles are misleading, which is, really annoying, right? The title should be kind of relevant, right, to what's being written, but that's not always the case. But you want to ask some questions of the title just to kind of get a sense of what the article or book or whatever may be about. We need to do a kind of search for the authors, right? So when we're going back to Jennifer Aitley, we can do a little bit of searching, right? We can search for her name, see where her name, tracks in a Google search to see, okay, is this person just random or is there an intentional choice in her writing this post, creating that video, etc., right? So we want to do a little search and see, how trustworthy are these people, right? I put a note here because I thought this was really important. Where's my note? It's not here. Okay. Okay. Well, I remember that there was a point here about, if you're thinking about brain injuries among the NFL, you have two seeming medical experts, Dr. McKee and Dr. Pellman, and they're offering different evidence. But if you actually do a search into their backgrounds and credentials, you learn that Dr. McKee is actually a neurologist, right? A brain doctor who specializes in brain injuries. So, for brain injury research, we want to focus on that kind of source. And Pellman is a rheumatologist, right, who's more specializing in the body. So McKee, in this sense, has more experience, we're to understand, because this doctor's background is specifically in neuroscience. And so I put here, there was a note at one point, just like if we're thinking about, what we're going through right now. So we have Dr. Fauci, right? Many of you probably heard him. He is a very well-respected immunologist, right? And he deals with studying infectious diseases. So you see him on several news sites and organizations offering his input. And then you see somebody like Dr. Phil, if you're familiar with Dr. Phil, who has been made famous by Oprah. You see Dr. Phil giving his insights on infectious diseases and whatnot, but his background is in psychology. And I'm not saying that to dismiss his doctorate. I obviously am a doctor in a certain way, but I'm not on a news show offering my opinion or insights about a pandemic, So it's like, we need to kind of weigh what information we're given and determine who's factual and reliable in that particular area, right? So we also want to think about the publisher or sponsor, because a lot of different organizations have different leanings or biases, right? So is it an academic press, a news organization? We just want to do a little bit of work before we, immediately kind of trust or start using information that we find. So these are 3 different examples, right? Take some time to make sure you read through this because it's super important. What's the URL? When was it published? Sometimes we want really current and really recent research to support our ideas, but some of us may be doing, say if you're in a literature course, I teach literature as well, using some older, more historical references can be helpful. But if you're writing something about, Facebook's impact on adolescent minds, you aren't going to go to some sort of source that was written in the 1950s because that's just not relevant, right? We want to think about the genre as well. We want to talk about, and notice whether it's reporting information or are we arguing. A lot of times there's a little bit of both. You just have to read carefully to see, ultimately what's the argument, that's happening here. And sites like Snopes and factcheck.org can definitely help. You should probably put that in your browser, bookmark it, because those are helpful sites to just kind of dig through and see what's what. Is it cited in other work, sources? So if you find this really great source, but you can't find anything on the author, you can't find the work cited in any other form, then you should question its reliability, right? Because this is something that's coming seemingly out of nowhere. Should we trust it, right? So it just means, in this day and age, again, we have to do a little bit of the investigative process. So I'm scrolling through this not because, this information isn't important, but because, I am hoping that you took some time to read through this, okay? So now I'm going to switch gears, sorry, in just a second. So as I'm switching gears, I also want to give you that random word for today's supplemental video, and it's going to be file, like a file folder or a file that you save on your computer or a file that you upload for an assignment in our class. So what I want to do now is again pull up Jennifer 8 Lee's article, and I want to do this just so we can kind of see, to do some investigating. Like if you're not familiar, HuffPost was more formally known as Huffington Post, right? It was started by a more left-leaning individual, right? And it's known as a more left-leaning website. And that is not to say that this is not factual information, but it is to say we need to read with a certain kind of understanding of any particular biases, right? Because we have sites that will lean in different directions. So this is one of the links that I posted in the announcements that you could kind of look at just to determine what leaning, any particular news organization might hold. And so this is from the University of Michigan, and it's all about breaking down news information. So this is, each source's audience in these different news organizations, so you'll see in the middle, kind of average, you'll see some of these different organizations. And then as you move farther to the right, you get more what is considered right-wing. We have Breitbart, Rush Limbaugh, Fox News is right here. And so as we move towards the left, right, this is actually considered somewhat middle. We have these, so that's based on the audience, okay? But then if you scroll down, you start to see what some of the research has kind of provided in terms of who's in the middle, right? So the Wall Street Journal, these are considered common centrist news sources. BBC News, I definitely recommend y'all, if you are news people, you get into the BBC because they're just delivering information, very little bias. USA Today, we also have almost center, so things that are pretty close, right? We have NPR, which is National Public Radio, and the PBS NewsHour. So I always recommend the PBS NewsHour to folks because it's just news delivery, right? There's not a whole lot of editorializing or things that you'll see on, say, the Rachel Maddow show, right? Or Tucker Carlson, or these people who, they may be delivering some factual information, but there's a lot of opinion and a lot of bias that could be involved in those kinds of sources. So we have sources on the left. The New York Times is considered a bit left-leaning, as well as the Washington Post. And then you'll see Huffington Post is considered a little bit more far left, right? Because it was Arianna Huffington, who's known as being a little bit more left-leaning. She started the organization in 2005, Mother Jones, and then you get towards the right and far right. So this is just a really good source to kind of think about how we look at and understand news and, the different biases that may be involved in those. Okay, so as we move forward in terms of thinking about academic writing and using sources, this information is going to be really helpful, not only because, this is just helpful for us on a daily basis to kind of understand the information we're being given, whether it's on Facebook, whether we do our own searches, whether we watch the news, however we're receiving that information. But we want to ask some of those questions from our chapter, right, of every kind of academic source we are considering. So maybe it's not in English, but maybe in history class, you're doing a search. You need to also ask these kinds of questions just to determine, yeah, this is a really reliable, well-researched source, or, oh, this is just some random person's blog and maybe not the best to use for an academic paper, okay? All right, y'all, so if you do have any questions about things that we covered in discussing Jennifer Aitley's overall ideas, right, because she was definitely getting into ideas about food and food culture and her own investigations into food, or about just how we're actually utilizing sources in our writing, just let me know.